Macklem, genties and ladlemen. It is in fact your boy, Sir Edward, and welcome to episode 17 of Cracking the Shell. This is where we go behind the scenes of all the stupid monster noises and blast beats of all our favourite guys, gals, and non-binary pals in the Glasgow and wider Scottish metal scene. On today's episode, we have the ever-delightful industrial noise metal duo, Mrs. Frighthouse in the gaff. How is it going?
Hi.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Thank you again for reaching out and wanting to come in here. I really do appreciate it. Before we talk about where you guys are at now, as you might know, I like to rewind the clock a little bit and find out how we got here, your first bands, how you found music, upbringing, the origin story shit. Take it away.
Do you want to go first, shall I?
You can go first.
Yeah. So really it all started 12 years old, discovering My Chemical Romance, of course. Just still think they're the best band ever, honestly. But that then led me to Korn and Slipknot. And from there I discovered a lot of stuff that was very current at the time, like Bullet for My Valentine, along with sort of, classics like Metallica, Slayer, Iron Maiden. And then so that was all late, second half of the noughties, then into the 2010s. Just started to reach out more and more, and saw Machine Head at Download 2012, absolutely loved it. And then it was around that time I discovered Nine Inch Nails, and that sort of led me down the industrial route. And from there it's lots of Ministry, and then early Swans in particular as well was one captured my attention. Godflesh, Street Cleaner, absolutely phenomenal. And then just looking back to the roots of industrial, Throbbing Gristle, and that sort of is what then made me you know what, maybe I could do music, because I'd always wanted to, but I'd never been able to feel like I could. I'd always tried to play instruments, just couldn't get my head around it. Didn't feel like I was good enough to do any of it. And it was sort of the idea from Gristle of just doing it. It sort of led me to that. So I just sort of started teaching myself to do lots of stuff, bought a keyboard, just playing around, using it as a MIDI, doing all sorts of different sounds. And then looking at Ministry and the sorts of noises and samples they'd use and the distorted vocals. And just sort of playing around, and then that was around 2017 sort of time, I think. And then during that time I then discovered The Body and Lingua Ignota and Uniform, and just so much more inspiration would come from all these places. And as you can see, Chelsea Wolfe as well. Absolutely love Chelsea Wolfe, and she's been a big influence. And so all of that sort of came together as I was just learning to create. And that sort of led us to where we are now, really. Well, me and this, and obviously I'm constantly discovering new stuff. And right now it's very much Meth, Chat Pile, and the new Uniform album, which is absolutely amazing. There's just so much great stuff, and it's always constantly just continuing to give me all these ideas for what I want to do music wise. But that's sort of how I got from a kid discovering My Chemical Romance to now doing This Is Frighthouse.
It's a hell of a story, isn't it? Going
Yeah.
from emo rock to absolute insane. It's like Call of Duty menu music, but set in spooky season.
Yeah. It's quite a jump, really. Yeah, Nine Inch Nails was the big turning point of just emo and alt music and new metal to all this noisy industrial stuff.
It's usually one of those paths, isn't it? You either get into stupid, obscure noise stuff or you get into pure death metal. There's never usually a kind of happy medium. It's either you go down one stupid noise route or another stupid noise route. At least that's what I found anyway.
Yeah, oh, that's absolutely right. And it's if I'm stressed, I now just put on Merzbow or Sun, and I'm just let the noise consume everything.
That should be at the back print of another t-shirt. Another t-shirt. Just let the noise consume everything.
Oh,
there you go.
definitely.
Free merch design. Free merch design idea.
How about you?
So I think the first CD that I ever the first CD I ever bought was actually Good Charlotte, that I bought for myself. But the first CD that I ever had that was mine, it was actually the Sex Pistols. And I think that was kind of that age. I was 10, and I was just amazed at someone, the idea of a singer being really unpleasant and like making really horrible sounds and kind of questioning authority and being like this isn't how things should be, or like things can be better or different. That was my kind of like first real exposure to that kind of idea. And like, you know, when you're 10 and someone's like saying things that are like outrageous and they're kind of questioning authority, it just kind of really stuck with me. And that was my kind of intro into like alternative music, I would say. But I think my granddad was also like a big influence for me. So like he loved ballads, like any kind of ballads. And so he was like a massive fan of Edith Piaf. And so like I became like a massive fan of Edith Piaf, who was another person who, for her day, she was like very radical in the kinds of things that she talked about. So like in her songs, she was talking about like kind of abused women and telling their stories. And she would kind of name, like she would use the names of like the kind of women in her songs, and like the men would be kind of like unnamed, which was quite unusual for the time. She would kind of sing about like, you know, women who were kind of abused and like kind of neglected when they were in hospital because they were looked down on because they were sex workers. And at the time, again, like that was kind of really shocking. And she also had like this big amazing voice, but I think she had a kind of stage presence that wasn't the kind of like typical kind of like feminine archetype expected of women at the time. And I also think you can almost hear kind of like proto metal in like some of her songs. And so she was like kind of a big influence on me as well. And, you know, the kind of idea of like telling stories through music and kind of telling the stories that like you might not kind of typically hear. And yeah, so my granddad just literally loved like any kind of ballad music, and so like we would kind of play one another like, yeah, different ballads. He was like very open-minded about music, so like, you know, he loved Edith Piaf, but he also loved like A Little Piece of Heaven by Avenged Sevenfold. And so like, yeah, some of our like music listening sessions would kind of have like just the widest range of music, and so I think that's where I just got this really kind of like diverse range of inspiration from. And then, yeah, I'd always felt like, as you can probably tell, I'm like quite an awkward person. And I think that, again, I'd always felt like I had very, very bad stage fright. And so even though like I loved singing and I loved music and it was what I had always really wanted to do, I just kind of felt like it was not something that I was going to be capable of. And then it was seeing just kind of like more acceptance and seeing bands that have like other kind of like neurodivergent front people who like, you know, they don't feel that they have to try and kind of like mask and be different on stage, and seeing that like that's kind of becoming more acceptable. It just kind of made me feel like I could do it finally.
Yeah, I think we both sort of had that, where the scene just being so much more accepting, and like again seeing bands like People Slicer where it's like, oh look, here's a trans person doing metal. It's just like it makes you feel like you can do this sort of thing. Like,
Yeah,
we were
People
both sort of
Slicer for
having
me
that.
as well, because like the like front person's, you know, autistic, and I think seeing someone on stage who kind of maybe like looked more like me and kind of reminded me a bit more of me. Again, I've got to stop saying that people remind me of me, because it's probably not a compliment.
You're
Like
wonderful.
Katie will probably be like, oh God. But like, yeah, I was kind of watching them and thinking like, oh wow, like that, like maybe I could do it, you know, like, because actually like they're amazing. And like, you know, I think that, yeah, seeing that there's kind of more diversity in like what a front person could be, which again I guess goes back to me kind of liking that, you know, Edith Piaf wasn't this kind of typical like feminine archetype of like what you should be, you know, like when she told these stories sometimes she was very angry and like would kind of express that, and like that was quite different, you know, like how often would you get women kind of like, you know, she did like scream and shout a little bit on stage, which like in the 40s and 50s I guess is quite rare, you know. A long rambling answer from me. And this is why I don't talk on stage. Because I'm like extremely awkward. And I've also worked so many customer service jobs that I have like this quite annoying, peppy kind of mannerism to my voice. And it's why I don't talk on stage.
If it's
Not any
any
of them now.
consolation, by the way, pretty much everything that you've said echoes with me as well. Like I'm also on the spectrum. I've said this in the podcast before. I am on the autistic spectrum on what was called Asperger's syndrome. But then they found out that the guy that came up with Asperger's syndrome kind of did some dodgy shit. And it's like, no,
Yeah.
it's not called that now. And I'm like, yeah, great. The thing that I've been diagnosed with has something to do with people that we don't talk about. But Yeah, so I echo pretty much every sentiment there, and seeing people that are neurodivergent on stage, even just like with you guys or whoever else, it's like, hey, I can do the thing. And that's something that I really admire and I find comfort in metal is that everybody's a little bit fucked in some way, and we're all just fucked together and fuck everyone else. Lot of fuck. There goes all of the monetization. I'm not making any money off this. It's a death metal podcast. I'm not fucking Joe Rogan. What am I on about? I ain't making money off of this shit. But I completely echo that sentiment of seeing people that you can relate to doing the thing. It makes you want to do the thing and feel like you can do the thing, as opposed to seeing, like, just pulling a name out my arse here, like bands like Motley Crue or whatever, where you think, yeah, there's no fucking way in hell I'm ever going to do anything like that. So seeing a lot of people like you guys and other bands, especially within this scene that's been booming since post-COVID, it's inspired me and it's made me want to do a wee bit more than just going to shows and buying t-shirts and stuff, which is where this came from. And I completely echo the sentiment of that. That's a cute cat. I get distracted easily. I'm more a dog guy, but I do like cats as well. And you can probably very faintly hear my dogs in the background. I say dogs, they're more like goblins, but they are down there. One of them got spayed on Monday, so it's been fun because she's
Oh,
a
Yeah.
little miniature Jack Russell, and they are tiny little pockets of energy. It's like those really old wind up toys you get if you overwound them to hell and then let them go, and they just went. That's what my dog's at. So they're barking away downstairs just now. So
Amazing.
but yeah, I think I like that thing about how like in metal, I feel like there is that kind of bit more acceptance. So like the one thing I talk about a lot is I used to get made fun of a lot for like my claw hands. Like I naturally do like this
I can
a
relate.
lot.
Don't worry.
And it's like normally like in everyday life, I'm always kind of trying to like mask and stuff like that. And you know, on stage, everyone's like, wow, I love your stage presence. You're so intense. You're always like, you know, and they kind of see it as like the cat's not the laptop over. Like they always see it as like a kind of positive. And it's weird that like things that people attribute to like awkwardness in life, people genuinely seem to kind of like it on stage. And so having like that place where actually it feels like those kind of mannerisms are like more accepted and like yeah becomes a kind of positive was also like yeah really good. I think it's one of the things I really like about
Yeah,
kind of doing this.
definitely.
Sorry,
I
that's a cat on the table.
It's fine. If I ever see any pets in the background, it's like, no, I don't care. Let me see your pet. The podcast is just with the pets now. It's a pet only podcast. Sudden announcement of rebranding. We are talking about pets. Fuck music. Fuck everything. Okay, bye.
I have a lot to say.
No, that's completely fine because, be honest, I don't like talking, which is kind of ironic that I started the podcast where I do a lot of talking. But that's why I like it when people come in here, and because this is more about everybody else than it is me. I'm just giving you everybody else that comes in here a platform. Like it was the same with Mutalith, it was the same with like the last episode with Hamish from Laceration, who's now bodybuilder. Um, talk all you want, talk as little as you want. It's a space to do basically whatever outside of doing anything that gets you cancelled on Twitter that I don't use. Oh no, I'm being cancelled on a social media platform I haven't used since 2022. But anyway, so now that we've got I suppose, the autobiographical stuff out of the way, how did you both meet each other, first off, and how did Mrs. Frighthouse kind of start to take shape?
So we actually met like a decade ago now at uni, and
Yeah,
that's sort of like we met at uni, and sort of around I was the year below Caris, and just as she was leaving, that's when we like got really talking, and then we entered a relationship, and now we've been together for like 10 years, nearly
yeah,
9 years coming on 10.
yeah.
And
We've
then
met like at LGBT society at uni. And then yeah, kind of like would always be at the same gigs, but like not, you know, like we kind of see each other and be like, hi, and then like not really talk. And then yeah, kind of like in like just as I was leaving, you kind of like came over and chatted to me at the degree show. We were talking about like having been at like some of the same festivals and gigs.
yeah,
And yeah. So the band kind of started because we were talking about like you know, like what would you regret if you never just kind of tried it? and I think I'd always wanted to do music, but I'd had very, very bad stage fright, very bad anxiety. And like I was saying, I just felt like I didn't have that kind of typical like front person kind of thing. And then yeah, I just kind of we'd been talking about that kind of thing. And so I was just on the way to work one day and I was just like, I think I just need to try. Like if I don't at least try and go into music, it'll be my like regret on my deathbed. And so I just messaged and was like, this is going to be really out of the blue and weird, but like, do you want to like do music together? And I think it could be really good. And it's funny because like I found like these messages and it was like, do you want to do music together? I think it could be really good. We could combine all of your kind of really like harsh noise kind of creations and I can do like more classical vocals, but did you know I can also scream? And I even think that even though in life my like weird twitchy autistic mannerisms come off really awkward, I wonder if maybe they could work on stage after all. And then like when we found that a year on, we were like, that is the band.
Yeah.
Like we had the concept, like that's basically the band summed up, right?
Pretty much. Yeah. But yeah, when I got text, it was just obviously like, well, yeah, because I also had always dreamed of this and wished for it and had spent years just like working away by myself, just creating things. And like that then meant we had a basis to sort of start from with a lot of the songs and the music. And although we took a lot of it was more sort of electronic based. And so it was sort of taking that and turning it and just like making it metal a lot. And then a lot of the songs that we've actually have now, like stuff that we release and perform live, is all new. It's just, it sort of like was all like, we got the blueprints from my previous project that I've just sort of been working on by myself, but just like a couple of friends and Karis had heard bits and pop pieces from. The exception of all that is Eyeliner, our first single, where the instrumentation is exactly the same. It was actually just sort of like the one sort of metal leaning song that I'd worked on back then. And we scrapped the lyrics and the vocals.
What were the original lyrics?
It was called Bleeding Mold. Like, yeah, it was just like a bit nasty and gruesome, but it just like didn't have the sort of like emotional impact that we wanted.
Yeah, I think we should definitely reuse it because it was actually great. It had this kind of like really droning vocal of Luna saying like bleeding mold. And like it was great. It was very, it was like really just like gruesome and disgusting. But I think we kind of thought that the instrumentation for Eyeliner was like it sounded really like frightening. It just all I can think was it sounds like something terrifying, huge, and inevitable coming towards you, and you can't stop it and you can't move out the way, even though it's moving very slowly. And we were like, I don't think that the lyrics quite fit that. And so that's the one where the instrumentals have stayed exactly the same. But then like live, I actually like play the accordion on it a lot of the time as well.
Yeah, like we've not been able to do that recently, but I think that can come back soon.
Yeah, so like it kind of a lot of the music started out as this kind of very dark, kind of like harsh electronic project of Luna's that like I really like. And you'd spent a long time creating that, and a lot of like the sounds that we have as well came from kind of hours of experimentation, creating these kind of like custom horrible sounds. So like all of our kind of like drum sounds are like completely unique, mostly created by you, and then I kind of added some like the guitar tone is like kind of very like this kind of very like custom unique sound. So like when we kind of started, we had a lot of like songs that were kind of like existing from that project, and then I kind of added in like new drums because the drums were a lot more kind of like electronic-y. But we probably could have gone more like that kind of like sightless pit kind of like direction with it. I think we'd sort of maybe thought about, and then I kind of added in like more kind of typical like metal drums, and then we've got like other songs that we would kind of write starting out, like I would just like we'd write them together with my guitar and then kind of like put them into like Logic and use like all of your kind of instrumentation to then kind of like
just
build
sort of
them
work
up further.
the patches and then use the MIDI keyboard to just start adding things, layering things up, and then once we sort of had like the basis of it, I'd sort of like sit there and like while Karis like wrote lyrics sometimes, because we both like its lyrics again are sort of like 50-50.
Yeah,
But
I've
some of
had
it's
some
like,
of them for years. Some of them we'd like sat down and kind of written together.
yeah, but it's like a lot of time Karis would be sat there working on lyrics, whether it's like brand new lyrics or like perfect things we've done, or even just taking a break from the song overall, because that's me sometimes. I just sit there and start just mixing it and layering things up and thinking about what it needs and like drafting some other vocal ideas. And like a lot of the time you'll get like vocals in the background, very sort of quiet, just like horrible noises distorted through the microphone, to then just add these textures and just stuff like that. And then I come back and I'm like, here you go. Like Mrs. Frighthousified it, doing things.
Yeah, Luna does like all the production on everything. So even though I'll kind of like often be present while mixing and I'll kind of say like, you know, I think that maybe that bit should like come up a bit, or like that's kind of getting lost.
Turn all my shit up, turn all your shit down.
Yeah, like it's very much like, you know, I'll have an input sometimes, but like Luna does like absolutely like all the like mixing and mastering and like yeah, does everything. And that's just come about from like years of experimentation, really.
Yeah,
like entirely self-taught, right?
Yeah, like it was especially like when I did my master's degree, I was like, oh, I don't really have much money, so I'm going to do like sound stuff. And I just like would use GarageBand because I had my old laptop, like my old MacBook that I got for my 18th birthday. And I just get up, go to work, holding a sign for a tattoo studio, then go to uni. Then when uni closed, I'd go home and just work away on all of this, sort of with the idea that I was like, I wanted to do music, but I also wanted to do sound art as part of my master's because it was free. I didn't have the money for any physical materials really. So that came out, ended up doing lots of photography on top of it, which I used my phone for because again, free. But so then it was just like holding a sign for a tattoo studio, going to uni, then sitting in my bedroom at halls, just working away, just like creating all these sounds and trying to just like make things that are nasty, make things that are atmospheric, just like then listening to lots of Ministry and Throbbing Gristle, Nine Inch Nails, and trying to sort of like how can I use these sorts of ideas? And so it just sort of spun out from that, where while I was working on more soundscape and atmospheric things for like a gallery setting, I was also then just like creating songs, a lot of which were awful because I was teaching myself to do
I like
all
them.
this stuff. Thank you.
And I was like, would you like me to do any vocals on them? And Luna was like, no thanks. I don't think it's gonna work. And I was like, oh, okay.
I just it was one of the things where I just sort of wanted it to be like purely this thing that I was just doing that I didn't know what I wanted it to be or what I wanted to do with it, and I just like felt very, very precious about it.
It's fine. I don't think my vocals would have worked on the original music. So originally it didn't suit my voice at all.
No, the original
So it has
idea of
changed.
vocals was just like nasty, droning, distorted vocals. Sort of like I guess uniform is probably the closest sort of reference, but sort of like less energetic, more drony.
Mhm.
Yeah, they were great.
But yeah, not wanting Harris's vocals and that was nothing to do with the quality of her singing because she is the best singer.
Oh, thank you. No, it's fine. I just think it's good that like we can actually kind of work together in that way. Where like, you know, I could say like, oh, you know, like I can, this was like quite early on as well. Where I don't think you'd really heard me sing much before. And I was like, oh, you know, I can sing. Like if you want some of these kind of vocals, here you go, demonstrate. And she was like, no thanks. I don't think it's gonna work. But it didn't actually offend me. I was just like,
wasn't what I was looking for
Okay.
at that project.
but I think that that's one of the kind of good things is that like we can kind of work together quite well, and we're quite good at quite sort of nicely but very bluntly being like, that doesn't work, like, or like, no, can please stop doing that in the song, it's not working. Or like this needs to be changed, this sounds bad. But like not, you know, like being able to kind of have those like really kind of honest, blunt conversations, which I think is probably something that we both got from art school as well. Like Luna was saying that because when at uni you had to kind of present your work and get like kind of very critical feedback on it. And I did design, and so it was kind of the same thing where you're used to having to like present your work, and sometimes they'll be like, this doesn't work, that is bad. And you have to be like, okay, and not take it personally and be like, this isn't actually like serving what it needs to be, or it's not communicating something correctly.
Yeah, and it's like all my work tended to be like quite emotional and personal, and so you had to learn to sort of like pour all this emotion and all this trauma into something, and then give it to a group of people and let people just criticize it and tell you what doesn't work, and to not feel attacked by it, to not take any of it personally, but to just look at the work objectively when you put so much into it. And so I think that's like, again, that's something that we both learned at art school and have taken to this, and so we do it to each other all the time and work on this Frighthouse.
Yeah.
Like when we're rehearsing, sometimes we'll like take a step back and have one of us rehearse and the other one just like watching as though we're the audience, and then can be like, this works, this doesn't work.
Yeah, and so you've got to like sing or scream your heart out about like one of the most traumatic things that's happened, and the other one has to be like, I'm sorry, like I really appreciate that like you're exploring your pain, but like you were singing really flat, like that was bad, can you try again? And
Not
so
just like, please don't do this, it just didn't work, it just looked weird.
yeah.
And not the kind of weird that we want either.
Yeah.
You gotta get that, gotta get the right type of weird, but
Yeah.
definitely it's something that's very hard to, if you present something to, especially online. Like it wouldn't have been so bad if this was, you know, I guess the 80s or the 90s where social media wasn't as huge a thing and you don't have hundreds of thousands of dissenting opinions, which usually don't really perform any kind of criticism or offer any kind of improvement or critique. It's more just, your shit's mid, bro. But yeah, I completely get it. It's the same with this. Sometimes you'll either find people love something or they hate it. But what I find worse, at least for me, is that they don't react whatsoever. Like if you have any kind of either a positive reaction or a negative reaction, it's still a reaction and you're getting what you want at the end of the day. Like I would rather have somebody absolutely think what I do is the worst thing in the planet than people that just go, meh. But that's just me anyway.
No, definitely, because at least you're getting some sort of reaction and response from people. Like you're at least getting enough attention where that it's notable for them. They're not just completely like blanking it because it's like, it's not even noteworthy.
I liked it when we made people leave the
Yeah.
venue once. Like we made people leave. There was someone that came up to us once and was like, oh, that was great. I mean, like, well, it was more like a kick in the teeth. No one wanted it, no one needed it, but you did it anyway.
Yeah, this was like early on before we'd done our first gig, because we didn't, it was one of the things where we were like, what we're doing is weird and we really like it. We envision it for like gallery spaces. Maybe we'd get to perform it once or twice a year at the most. Don't know if anyone does really want this in like a music space. So in order to sort of like build our confidence and just sort of test it out, we started going to some open mics, local clubs outside of Glasgow. Yeah, doing this at open mics where it was a lot of like folk people doing a lot of things, sometimes spoken word, and yeah, mixed reactions. Some people absolutely loved it, some people didn't. Sometimes a busy pub would get cleared out.
Yeah, there was
That's
one
good.
time where they were just all like, oh, and like just walked out. They'd like heckled us for a bit and then like just left. Yeah, I think that like any kind of strong reaction at least is, I guess, better, because it means that at least you've kind of made people think about something, felt something.
Yeah.
And like I often like not enjoy, but like I guess kind of find it valuable to like read the opinions of people that I really, really disagree with, even if I very strongly like disagree with them. I think it's kind of good to know, yeah, like what do people that disagree with you or that you disagree with think? Like, you know, if I don't like I mean, even if I really enjoy a band or like one of my favorite bands, I'll still be like maybe even more critical of them if I've not enjoyed like something recent that they've done, you know, because I'm like, it interests me enough that like I kind of care about it, and I'm always interested in what is it that I don't like about a song or a performance or something. And like anything that's, you know, if you can have a real strong opinion on like what was not good about it, it's kind of more than, you know, that's better than just like, well, it's boring, like it just, you know, it just bored me, I guess.
Yeah.
That was pretty much my opinion of the new Linkin Park single that they put out. It's boring. Like, Emily's fine as a singer, but she's like there for maybe 5 seconds in the entire track. Where's the guitars? Where's the drums? I like the vocal hook, I like the vocal melody, but Linkin Park, they need to have that bite to them. For me, anyway, as a fan, because obviously I grew up in the mid 2000s, and one of the first metal songs I ever heard was New Divide from that second Transformers movie. So that's when I found Linkin Park, and I went down the whole new metal road, and then I found like classic metal like Maiden and Metallica and all the old fart bands, and then power metal, which I still love power metal to this day. And then slowly but surely went through death metal, slam, deathcore, obscure noise stuff like Full of Hell or Antichrist Siege Machine or Jarhead Fertilizer, which that was a show I went to last year. That was fucking brilliant. If you ever see Antichrist Siege Machine, watching them, because like yourselves, they're a duo. One of them's on guitar and vocals, one of them's on drums and vocals, and this guy on the drums is the main singer, and he's doing 300 BPM blast beats while singing, and I'm just kind of stood there going, please don't hurt me. Don't hurt me, you know? But that's definitely the kind of vibe that I get from listening to Mrs. Frighthouse, except instead of 300 BPM, it's like 5.
Yeah. Yeah, that was another big thing that we were doing. I was listening to lots, like, again, I've already mentioned Sudden. I was listening to Sudden a lot. I was like, I want to make things slow because, yeah, some people just like up the BPM, make things really fast to make it heavy, but like, make it slow. Just slow it down, like Sun, Primitive Man, all this stuff. Just let it, just like, again, let it consume the listener, let it consume the performer. Let just like a single note stretch on longer than it should. Like,
I
yeah,
always lean towards a lot of down-tempo stuff, especially stuff like Death Doom or like down-tempo deathcore, or just anything that's kind of slow or mid-tempo and got a groove to it. That's the stuff I always lean towards. I mean, bands like Peeling Flesh or Sugabog especially, they've kind of mastered the whole kind of mid-tempo, doomy stomp kind of thing. That's what I always lean towards, and definitely I found that with Mrs. Frighthouse. Again, it's basically just Call of Duty menu music combined with industrial noise slowed down to like 5 BPM. There you go, can stick that on the back of a t-shirt. COD menu music, but at 5 BPM during spooky season. There you go.
Oh, thank you. I love
thank
that.
you. Yeah, that's great.
So you've got a fair few songs out just now. You've been cutting your teeth with some gigs. What would you say is there a certain kind of goal you want to reach? Is there like, do you want to put out an EP? Do you want to put out a full length album? Where do you see yourselves going from this point?
So at the moment, I mean, it's already gone way past what we ever envisioned it ever would. Oh yeah, we expected would maybe like do the odd performance in a gallery setting sort of thing.
Like we got into this kind of a bit later as, genuinely just a what will I regret never having done on my deathbed. So just that, like, anyone that is willing to listen, like just for me, like even just performing at open mics, and I used to kind of perform just like a cappella stuff. The idea of like anyone just wanting to stand there and listen to me just felt like a dream come true.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's already just, we've already done more with it than we like ever thought that we would. And so like we just can't believe that, like, promoters kind of took a chance on us and booked us.
We've got to play with like Wallowing and Covered, and we got to play with Meth and Hammer and Offenham a little while back, and like just again we've played in London. We've got a gig coming up in a couple of weeks in Edinburgh with like Moth and Harvinger's drum crew, which is just like it's industrial drum crew, just loads of them drums. They were on what's it called, The Traitors in the US. Like that's just gonna be good fun. And then in a few weeks in Glasgow, we get to play with like Malevich, Chewing Glass Collective, Unmaking, and Chow. And again, I just can't believe we get to do that. Then it's like another one of the big ones coming up, which at the moment is our last gig of the year, where we get to support Interarma, which like it's just unbelievable that we actually get to do any of that when we didn't think anyone would even want it.
Like it already just feels like a complete dream, and like we're just having so much fun. But like we are working on like an album at the moment.
It's sort of nearly done. We've got a few vocal tracks we need to record, a couple of lines that I want to re-record, but all the instrumentation is like done, and it's mostly mixed. It'll just need like a bit more once the vocals are fully like done and added in, just balance it all out, make it all work. Yeah, the album is coming along very nicely. That we're hoping to be out sort of like late 2025 is the current goal
Yeah.
for that. And then like beyond that, the dream is just to play a few festivals that are like dream festivals for us. Like there's Core in Glasgow, and there's
Yeah.
like Up Tangent down in Bristol and Roadburn in the Netherlands. Like we'd just like to do those, because when it comes to just like gigs, we've already done more than we ever could have imagined, and it's absolutely amazing, and we're so happy with what we've been able to do.
Yeah, we just really love like performing and stuff. Some things that we've kind of talked about a bit is like we've talked with like some friends about doing some shows with like a kind of full live band. Even though like a lot of the time, because our instrumentation is very like, yeah, it's very custom. So like we've got this kind of most of our drums are kind of synced up to like this very specific sound that's created by a very down-tuned, dampened cymbal. And so it's like it kind of syncs up so that like the snare, it really, really like stings your ear because it's like syncs to this like really, really like high-pitched, dampened hi-hat kind of sound that's like, yeah, got like absolutely no reverb on it at all. And so yeah, like things like that are really hard to like replicate live. We kind of like have this thing where we get like there's kind of two sets of drums. So like the kick is often like, you know, like every kind of like fourth kick drum is synced to like this one that just kind of like booms and echoes in this like kind of massive chamber type sound. So we're not sure how to kind of replicate that, but we like also think it would be really interesting to hear it with like a full live band. So we've been talking to some friends about that as like a eventual kind of pipe dream, is to do like, because Moni Jitchell did that, like they did a show with like a kind of full live band, so like that's something we'd like to do.
Something we would absolutely love to do.
My like eventual, again, like kind of complete pipe dream is to play, you know, when bands play with like an orchestra. I'd love to do something like that, ideally in just again some like massive like echoing kind of hall or something. I think would be really fun. And yeah, like the kind of festivals would be like to play like Core Festival, Up Tangent, Roadburn. Like yeah, that's kind of
those are like the big ones.
The dream.
Even like Damnation, like I feel like depending on what else is booked for Damnation, we could maybe do it. Like, you know, we're supporting Interama. They're at Damnation this year.
Yeah, that would be like an amazing one to do.
That would be good fun.
Yeah, just like I think a lot of like festivals would like to get to play like some festivals would be like the dream.
Yeah, and also just like collaborate with people. Like we've got, I'm not sure if we can mention it or not because they've not actually announced it themselves, but there's some friends who have another release coming out soon where we've done guest vocals on their tracks, spoken to other people about collaborating. Hopefully that will happen. But just, you know, get involved with more and just work with other people because it's great. And there's so many amazing bands in Scotland and especially like here in Glasgow.
Yeah, because yeah, the other band as well, they're like big fan, like both of us are like big fans of Full of Hell and Lingo Igniter, and so we really loved like when they've collaborated, and we were saying like we should definitely try and kind of do something a bit like that together. That's another thing I'd really like to do, is like, yeah, kind of collaborate with more bands, I think.
Definitely. And like maybe one day do a collaborative album, just like us and a really nasty metal band, just do a full album together. Sort of like when you
I'd begin to hear it for sure.
Yeah, or like Full of Hell and Mersbo, something like that, just like, but with like Karis's amazing vocals they done as well. Just
thank you.
Stuff like that. That's that sort of stuff we'd like to do.
Yeah,
it'd be great. It'd be so much fun.
I could definitely see it happen, to be honest, because again, like I was saying, Mrs. Frighthouse's music, it gives me a lot of similarities to Full of Hell, obviously in the complete opposite direction BPM wise. But I think that your kind of cacophonous style of industrial noise, I think it could fit really well with a lot of bands, a lot of them that I've actually had on the series, on the show. Like, I think you would fit really well with Penny Coffin if they had maybe a couple of Doom tracks that were just absurdly slow with that kind of intense atmospheric dissonant noise. Same with something like Mutilith. I think it would work great with them,
Yeah,
which
that's actually the second person that said that like we should collaborate with Mutala.
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
I'll
Like
spam Aiden after this.
yeah, that's the second recommendation to work with them from someone. So like, yeah, we would love that. We're like massive fans of them.
Oh yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Yeah, I really enjoyed seeing them. I saw them live with Sai a few weeks ago.
Yeah, we
That
saw
was a
that
lot of fun.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just Sai were great as well. But
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
have
One
your...
of the picks of the year for us. That was so much fun.
It was a lot of fun. I'll have everything about you guys, like I'll have your Instagram in the description, I'll have the Linktree in the description, which will have links to all of the social media, I'll have a link to their Bandcamp merch store. They've got some really cool designs that I think really fit their aesthetic really well. They're minimal, but also just intense at the same time, which I really like. So if I'm ever at a show, I will definitely cop one. Because I always think it's more personal to... Because as cool as it is, like buying merch online and stuff, I like actually giving my money to the person, especially if it's a member of the band or artist or whatever. I think that there's something really personal about that when you're actually giving your money, especially if it's cash, which I always pay in cash at a gig, even though everybody's got card machines now. I should just, pay card, but I like having cash, especially because it's like once I'm done, I'm done. Because then I could easily empty my bank account. I have a problem.
That's a good solution. I love buying band merch, but yeah, they're like only taking cash. So then once it's gone, it's gone. I should try that.
It's like we went to Core Festival this year and we just kept being like, oh my god, this band is amazing, buy a shirt. We bought so many shirts.
Yeah.
You can never have enough of them. Never have enough of them.
You're not happy, but we're happy.
It's like what you don't see in this kind of, like, because I'm sitting in the corner of my room right now, I'm right next to my wardrobe. Just up above it, the entire top of the wardrobe is covered in hats, as is the side. Just around there, there's hooks, and each, like, there's 15 on, like, that side. And Christ knows how many up that side. And I'm like, I need more. I need more. And the entire, like, it's one of those wardrobes that have, like, 3 little cube spaces. Each and every single one of them is near filled to the brim. And my bed is one of those ones that you can lift up and store shit. That's also filled with band shirts. I don't have a problem whatsoever. What are you on about? I need more.
We just have bags and boxes around of just like band shirts that haven't been worn in years, but it's just like, I don't want to get rid of them. Bought them at gigs. There's just probably hundreds at this point.
That's why I've been trying to collect patches more often, because at least it doesn't take up as much space. But a lot of bands don't do patches.
That's sad. Yeah, we have a couple more shirts coming though as well. It's like, looked on Bandcamp, there's one sold out, there's one where there's only a few left, but we've got a couple more designs. They're printed, they're here.
Yeah, we've got like the next batch of merch ready. It's got like 2 new t-shirt designs, tote bag, some new patches, new badges. So we're going to be like, that's quite exciting as well, actually.
Going to be teasing it a bit more on social media, and then our upcoming gigs, that's where it's going to be available. Like, it's not quite as minimalist as the current shirts.
Really, really cool to hear. You've got a lot going on, a lot in the pipeline, and you definitely are hungry enough to earn the praise that you've been getting. So I want to congratulate you again on that. Lots of stuff coming. Thank you again so much for reaching out to me and wanting to appear. It makes me feel good when people care. I didn't think that, because when I started this back in May, I was like, I'll do it for fun. And then next thing you know, it's like, oh God, people care. And it's like, yay, it makes me happy.
Great. Like, your videos are becoming like a who's who of the Scottish metal scene as well. And it's just great.
Yeah, we loved your interviews with Aphotic. We're like massive fans of Aphotic. So like, the interviews with like Liam and Jordan were like amazing. Yeah, just seeing like, like we love like Tyrannus and Mutilith and like Penny Coffin, like all of these. When we're seeing like all the people that you've like interviewed, we're like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Yeah.
I still freak out that I've actually managed to interview these people. It's like, especially Christmas Party Cannon. I was like, I think I just need a little.
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't got to listen to that one yet. We were really looking forward to that.
Yeah, that's one where
It was a lot of fun. I think you'll definitely enjoy it. And I'll be seeing Party Cannon in a few weeks, and I'm very much looking forward to that. And just watching people spin kick the fuck out of each other. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, I think we're gonna try and get to that, aren't we?
Yeah.
Well, if you see me there, feel free to say hi, because again, I'm a socially awkward autistic goblin, and my body's like, say hi. No, I don't want to. Go say hi, you fucking moron. And it's like I hate myself immediately for like, days afterwards. It's like, why didn't you go say hi? And I hate myself about that, especially if it's an artist I really like.
Oh, see, I'm the person that always does go and say hi, and then I'm like, oh no, I've been
Oh
really.
no, please do, please do. If anybody says hi to me, you can choose from one of three options. You can either get, if you're a high five kind of guy, if you're a hug, if you like a handshake, a fist bump, or if you just want to stand like 15 feet away and be like, hello. I'm fine with either, but I'm really bad at making the first move. Ask anybody I've ever dated. I was horrendous with making the first move. So again, anybody sees me, even if I'm just like in Glasgow or whatever, just be like, you're that guy from that thing. And I'll be like, I'm that guy from that thing. I'm great. I'm really not. I'm bad.
Okay. I will definitely come and say I'm
Yeah.
actually like, unfortunately, I'm like slightly like face blind. I'm not very good with like recognizing faces, which also leads to like more horrible interactions. So if I do appear to ignore you,
Don't worry, it's fine. I'm
like,
usually wearing these at shows
can't
anyway. If you see
recognize
these, it's
people
likely it's
out of
me.
context.
Fantastic.
Anyway, I don't want to keep you guys for too long, and now you've got a lot in the works at the moment, and just in general, life is kind of, yeah. So we'll wrap it up here. I'd like to thank everybody so much for watching. Thank you to Mrs. Frighthouse for coming and sitting with me and blethering. Christ knows what the hell we've just blethered. I'm sure there was something constructive in there, but overall, the message is if you want to do something, just do it.
Oh, absolutely.
Just do it. You will regret it. You will absolutely regret it if you don't. If it's shit, just dust yourself off, either do it again or find something else. But never ever not do something. If your heart truly wants it, you will do it.
Yeah, as
Yeah.
Jordan would say, do the thing.
That thing, do. Yeah. Anyway, thank you again, everybody, so much for watching. If you like what you hear and you want to support Mrs. Frighthouse in any way, the link tree will be in the I say the bio. This isn't Instagram. This is YouTube. It will be in the description of the video. You will find a link to their Bandcamp where you can listen to their music, which is very, very good. And you will find tickets to all of their upcoming shows and all their social media, so you can keep up with their spooky card music posting. Thank you again so
Thank
much for watching, everyone. And I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye.